Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. So today we're diving deep into a question that everyone who works in or around technology has to face. This is a question of when do we say no? It has a profound implication on the tech world and we're about to unpack it today.
So we all use tech, we all use smart devices, and now we're gonna understand when that becomes dangerous, when this tool can become harmful.
Yeah.
Every decision we make, whether it's the design of an app or the development of a new AI, has far-reaching consequences. These aren't just abstract ideas. Think about how algorithms on social media can amplify hate speech or misinformation. That's not neutral. It's a choice, and it's a choice that we really need to think about critically.
Absolutely, and whether you're an engineer, designer, or policymaker, the stakes are the same. We are responsible for shaping a future that impacts society. And when we fail to consider the consequences, it's not just a matter of individual mistakes, it's a systematic problem. We need to talk about when it is our job to say no to prevent harm.
So let's dive in and explore when we should really be saying no and why it's so vital. Is it because of business pressures or is it because of the fact that we're overlooking the moral consequences? So we're going to start by talking about professional ethics. Philosopher and bioethicist Benjamin Friedman argues that every profession has its own internal morality. For example, when you become a doctor, you take an oath that says do no harm. And Friedman suggests that technologists should operate by a similar code. He argues that there should be clear lines in technology and that we shouldn't cross them when developing products, even when they might seem lucrative.
But here's the thing, tech isn't like medicine. Engineers aren't taking an oath or anything like that like doctors do.
True.
Their job is to solve problems and they really have no concern with morality. If a company tells an engineer to work on something, their number one job is to get it done. It doesn't matter if it has unintended consequences. So where do we draw the line?
And that's exactly the issue. If we say it's not our job, then who's going to step in? In tech, everyone assumes that someone else will handle it, but that's how we end up with harmful products in the world. No one wants to be the person to stand up and say no when tech is being pushed forward.
Right. For example, take the case of facial recognition software. Engineers are asked to develop systems that can track people in real time, but there are huge privacy concerns. And when we don't push back on that, we're complicit. Friedman would argue that we failed in our professional duty to protect people.
And that's the big dilemma. It's easy to just say no, but in the real world, people are working under immense pressures, and we need to think about the stakes. Saying no could cost someone their job, their reputation, or their livelihood. Does this potential harm outweigh the risk to their career individually, and how should we navigate that?
I mean, it's a tough question, but it's not about just quitting your job. It's about having the ability to speak up and knowing when something is actually fundamentally wrong. A shared ethical framework within profession could give strength to stand up without feeling like we're alone in doing so.
Yeah, like think about lawyers. They refuse to break confidentiality no matter the circumstances. Why can't technologists do the same?
Mm-hmm.
If engineers and designers had the same kind of ethical backbone, they would feel empowered to stand up for the greater good, even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. So let's talk about the industry itself. A recent Deloitte 2024 survey shows that companies are starting to build ethical frameworks for tech. This is an encouraging trend, and companies are beginning to recognize that ethics can no longer be an afterthought. It has to be built into the foundation of technology from the start.
So that's true, but these frameworks aren't just magic. Just because companies claim that something's ethical, what really does make it ethical? They can't just say that.
Good point.
The reality is that many of the big scandals we've seen, like the Facebook data scandal, were products of corporate choices. They weren't actually mistakes. When companies prioritize growth at all costs, ethical considerations often get pushed aside. So how do we trust these frameworks enough?
That's exactly right. Companies can say whatever they want to the press, but it's about what happens behind closed doors that matters. So many companies say they're worried about AI's ethical risks, and the fact still remains that there's not enough action to address this risk at the massive scale that it's at.
Yeah, you're right, Blake. And when we look at AI specifically, only 27% of these companies actually have clear ethical AI guidelines. So that means that the vast majority of the industry is just guessing, and they're hoping that it doesn't backfire. This isn't just a minor issue. It's actually a fundamental flaw in how tech companies approach development.
Yeah, and this is where we as individuals need to step up. If companies won't set the ethical boundaries, technologists have to be the ones to enforce them. We need to hold ourselves accountable for the products we create and make sure we are shaping them in a way that promotes the well-being of a society.
But again, that's easier said than done. If the frameworks are weak, how do we actually standardize the ethics across the industry? Without enforcement, these frameworks are nothing more than a checkbox. We need government intervention and actual laws that prevent companies from taking advantage of their users for profits.
Yeah, and that's why we, as the people, need to demand stronger, more comprehensive ethical frameworks.
Yeah.
It's not enough for them just to exist. We actually have to focus on them and they need to be actionable. So we need ethics training, clear accountability, and real consequences for these frameworks. So moving on a little bit, governments are also stepping in with AI ethics guidelines. The US government, for example, has introduced 5 core principles for AI that include responsibility, transparency, and fairness. The idea is to make sure that people who design AI systems take responsibility for the consequences of those systems.
Exactly, and we can't just blame the algorithm. If something goes wrong, technologists have to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Those technologies don't just develop on their own. People build them, so it's essential that we own up to the consequences when they cause harm.
So, I would say that equity is another non-negotiable principle. Think about how biased algorithms have led to problems like racial profiling or gender bias. So if a system is flawed, we need to pause and fix it before moving forward. But right now, many of these companies are just pushing technologies out without addressing the actual critical issues behind it.
That's interesting that you bring that up because I remember a couple years ago my mom telling me a story about her friend who was Black and having issues using soap dispensers in the bathrooms because the technology wouldn't recognize her skin tone to automatically dispense soap.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And piggybacking off of that, that makes me think of what we discussed in class the other week about Google's search engines in around 2017 that had different recommendations based on different demographics that you would put in. For example, if you search white girls, it would come up with children playing, but if you searched up Black girls or Asian girls, it would come up with pornographic content. So we can see that this technological bias comes for simple technologies like a hand soap dispenser, but it can also go to the internet, search results. But with the rise of AI, how is that bias affecting these insanely popular models that are going off of a billion different bias training models?
Yeah, how do we really know how these systems work, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've worked firsthand with one of these systems. In 202, we use this new AI. It's only been out for a little while, and it's pretty state of the art because it's brand new and you have to manually prompt into a Google AI engine. And when you would search something up, you would have to manually put in when you wanted someone to have color.
Wow.
So yeah,
Interesting.
What
we
was
had
the
to-
default?
it's Caucasian families.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't think that that's necessarily malicious
Yeah.
because the creator could be a white male or a white female.
Yeah.
But it's just something we have to look into because, as we said before, people need to be held accountable from now on.
And as a person of color, do you feel excluded because of this?
I'm used to it. I've been dealing with this my whole life.
Yeah.
On the playground in the sandbox. So.
That's really interesting that you bring that up, Evan. Just back to the bias of these AI training models and the data sets that they go off of and the bias with that. And that's when we should be asking the question, should the government step in? But there's challenges to that. Governments have guidelines and they don't always fit the fast-paced, profit-driven nature of the tech industry. Traceability and transparency sound great, but companies like Amazon, Google, and OpenAI just avoid that because it's cheaper and more profitable. They use black box AI.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I have a question. Do you remember the lecture that we had in 203 a couple weeks ago where we were looking at the creator of some software? I can't remember which one, but he basically made an image of a person that was supposed to represent everybody in the world, but it was him.
Yeah.
And it was him being a white male.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting. Him knowing how the system works could totally build something else instead of thinking all about himself. Like, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you look at the average person, I believe I've seen things. So the average person's a woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The average person is like of Asian descent,
Mm-hmm.
and it would look nothing like what he demonstrated as the average person. So that's just a huge example of bias,
Totally.
and that's all going to affect us.
And obviously everybody has bias, but I think that when you have such a major role in technology, it's so important. Like, I remember being in high school and I misspelled one of my teacher's emails wrong. And he was like, my email is like my name, which is Mr. Johnston, and then blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you spelled John wrong. It's not J-H-O-N, it's J-O-H-N. And John is the most popular name in the planet. How can you not spell it? So I was like, can you spell Muhammad? Because that's the most popular name in the world.
True.
Yeah.
Right?
Period.
Like, everybody has bias, but sometimes it can go crazy.
Yeah, and there's like no reason for us to build systems that operate in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like him making his face, that's so not right. Anyway, users deserve the transparency and they deserve the option to opt out if they don't feel comfortable with how their data is being used or how data in general is being created. I think governments need to step in before things in tech go wrong, because it's inevitable. Yeah.
Totally. So let's now talk about surveillance capitalism.
Mhm.
Zuboff's work highlights how big tech companies treat personal data like raw material. They turn our private information into a commodity, selling it to the highest bidder.
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It is, and that's the thing. Companies won't stop unless they're forced, which goes back to the government intervention. They've built entire business models around exploiting our data, and the more they know about us, the more they can sell to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, are we okay with that?
I mean, we do say no, though, right?
Do we though? Do you guys use Instagram, for
Yeah.
example?
Yeah.
So we talked earlier in this podcast about the big Facebook leak of information where it was revealed that they were, collecting information on us and selling it.
Yeah.
And we're all aware of this, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we still use Instagram.
True.
So the question becomes, is the average person unaware that their data is being used? Or is the average person knowing of it and using it anyway?
I'd say like the demographic of Facebook, like the main users are older people, and I feel like they
They might
probably
not know.
didn't know.
Yeah.
They probably have no idea how to even opt out of those things if there is an option.
It's true, but Facebook is branched into Meta, which is now Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
It's
WhatsApp.
much
Yeah.
bigger, and I would say most of the demographic is now on the younger side,
True.
who is probably more aware. So my personal opinion is that most people know that their data is being used and sold, and they use the app anyway.
Yeah, that's hard to say because it's kind of something that most people brush over. They don't think about it deep enough. They aren't educated enough on it, and like that affects people. You need to have a prompt or something there to show people, or else it is like stealing your data, and I don't think that's okay. And we can't let these companies use our lives as currency.
Yeah.
And as technologists, we need to push back. Users don't consent to being treated like data mines, and they don't sign up for every move they make to be monetized without their knowledge.
So should governments be the ones who are educating us on this, or who should?
Yeah, I think it should be governments. Definitely.
So-
But I have kind of a counter opinion here.
Okay.
And I think that the data can be used ethically, but only if we keep asking, is this data harming anyone? Could it maybe reinforce bias or discrimination? And I feel like maybe more we need to ask these questions when we're working with the data. And I think that kind of prevents us risking all the harm on the massive scale.
So you're saying that we don't really need consent unless it's being used for a good reason?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that we just need to ask the question, is it even harming anyone in the first place?
Okay.
So, historically, it has caused harm. From privacy violations to misinformation campaigns, the impact has been real. So, when we say no, it's not just an ideal, it's about protecting users and ensuring that we're building technologies that serve people and not exploit them.
Yeah, so then going back to when should we say no, then is it when tech violates core values like privacy, fairness, transparency, safety, even? These aren't negotiable. Like, if tech goes against these principles, we have an obligation to step back and reassess them.
When the pressure to produce profit undermines user protection, we need to stand firm and say no. That's just not acceptable. We cannot allow profits to outweigh people's safety and dignity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. When technology is more likely to harm than help, it's our job to refuse to build it. Governments can step in. Technology should empower us, not control us. If it's doing more harm than good, then we shouldn't be letting it into the world.
So, when ethical frameworks are lacking and we're forced to rely on personal responsibility, that's when we need to step up and take action. We can't wait for the system to change because we are the system.
And at the end of the day, we're the ones shaping the future. We decide if the future is harmful or humane. The tech we build today shapes the world of tomorrow.
Totally. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Stay ethical, stay aware, and we will see you next time.